Green Room, a dive into the minds of the artist.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Green Room, the show that gives you a dive into the minds of the artist. Today we have on Nathan from Nathan, Bryce, and Loaded Dice. This band has been making a lot of noise. I've heard a lot about them. Man, Nathan, it's sick to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank
how you
you.
doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah. Well, shit. We got all this research on you. But just started out with just give us some background on yourself and let everybody know, start with like the beginning of your career up until 2012, say, and just roll from there.
Okay, sure. I got into playing guitar when I was about 12. My dad played, so we just had guitars sitting around the house, and I just kind of started picking those up and messing around with myself a little bit, and he showed me a few chords and stuff. But when I was about 12, I saw a live video of Stevie Ray Vaughan, and that's kind of what hooked me. I always loved music, like from the time I was born. But when I saw that, it just kind of really sparked something and got me wanting to get into playing guitar. I just thought that was so cool. I was like, I just want to do what that guy's doing. So that's when I really started getting into it. And then just kind of got hooked on it when I was about 16. I played my first live gig out. I played with some friends and stuff like up until then, and had put like a band together in high school, and went out and played my first gig when I was like 16, opened for Fast Johnny Ricker from Kansas City at a place in Springfield called Nathan P. Murphy's. But then just my parents were like real supportive of me playing and stuff. They would go with me to the bars when I was real young so I could play in the bars, and they'd take me out to like open blues jams and stuff like that. So I was just got really into it when I was young, and just been playing ever since. When I was about 19, I got into a band that I stayed with from like 99 to like 2012. The biggest part of my career early was playing with them. And we did quite a bit of playing and did a few blues challenges and stuff like that. And then in 2012, I moved to Texas and started playing down in Austin a little bit, and played down there for a couple of years, and then came back and put my own band together, Nathan, Bryce, and Loaded Dice. And that's kind of what you have now today. The lineup's changed a few times over the years as far as the members go, but this lineup that we're running currently, we've been together since 2021. All three of us. The bass player Jerry's been in the band, and I've been working with him since about 2012. So
How did you guys all meet and everything? Like how are you guys all from Springfield or
yeah, me and the bass player are both from Springfield. We've both been playing here all our whole lives. Jerry actually graduated from the same high school as me, but he graduated in 72 and I graduated in 99. But,
okay. So he's
but
a little bit older cat,
yeah,
but he's cool.
yeah,
He
but
can
we've been
play.
playing in Springfield forever. So we just kind of knew each other through just being in the Springfield music scene. And like over my career, like there'd be a few times I need a bass player to fill in or something, I'd hit him up to play bass, and just kind of got to know him that way. And he's been in and out of my band a couple different times. But this last time I was actually needing a bass player, and I was just calling him to see if he could fill in. And I didn't know that he wasn't in a band at the time. He goes, actually, I just quit the other band I was in. I'm available.
Man, so does he bring in some where does you got like a 60s, 70s, 90s sound, if you would. Just it's got everything in there. Where does the grunginess, the little and you obviously bring the soul. So would you say the bass player kind of brings in the dirtier lick on that side of things?
One of Jerry's biggest influences is Mel. I think it's pronounced Shocker or something like that, from Grand Funk Railroad, the bass
Okay.
player. And if you listen to like their early stuff, like the Red album that Grand Funk did, the bass player has a real kind of gritty tone, but he likes he likes it to have a little bit of grit to it. He likes like John Entwistle, from The Who and stuff like that. So Jerry's a
Yeah.
pretty great bass player, but he has the ability to get like real funky too. Jerry's just a great bass player all the way around. He's been playing for a long time and knows his stuff. But as far as the grunge side, that comes from me.
Yeah, yeah.
I grew
Nice.
up, yeah, I graduated in '99, so when I was in seventh grade, it was like 1992, and that's when Nirvana and Stone Temple Pilots, Pearl Jam, Weezer, all those bands were huge then.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
so like 1994, there was all kinds of really good music that came out in the '90s. So I
Oh
was into
yeah.
that stuff as well. Like I kind of grew up listening to '60s and '70s mostly. Like my parents were really into music and listened to the Beatles and Hendrix and Zeppelin and all that stuff from the time I was real young. But then when the '90s grunge thing came around, it kind of was raw again, like that music. So I kind of identified with it and I liked it just as much as I liked that music. But at the same time, I was also like really getting into blues because of Stevie Ray Vaughan.
I was about to say you got a soul to your plan. I love it. Well, I'm from Mississippi, so I
Yeah.
mean, it hits home. You've been rocking with Dylan and Jerry for almost a decade now, or close to.
Mhm.
So what's the writing process in the studio? How do you guys, what's your formula, for writing songs, and how do you keep it going over the years? Is it changing, and take us
Yeah,
through that?
it's definitely changed. And, I kind of feel like I've learned some things and gotten better at it over the years. But usually I just have to be inspired or have a good idea for a song. And then it just kind of takes off from there. But I think it's just having a mindset too of being a songwriter, just always looking for ideas. Like, when people are talking, I'm always kind of trying to like listen for interesting things they say and, you know, looking for things that might be a good song idea or a good song title. But as far as our writing process goes, usually, I come up with the song for the most part, but then we get together and we rehearse it. We put the form together and things like that as a group. Um, but I'll have kind of like the main structure and lyrics kind of there, and then we'll just put everything together from there. And usually the songs start out one way and then kind of turn into what they end up becoming. So it's kind of fun to watch them transform. Sometimes they'll start out as one thing and end up as something completely different.
Yeah. Do you ever get the guys send you like a bass lick and be like, "I really or anything like that," or is it always you starting the riff off? Um,
Usually me starting the riff off. Jerry's pretty good at coming up with stuff though, so I just kind of let him like come up with. He'll ask if I like it and stuff like that, but usually I like what he plays. So
right.
we
Yeah, he's
have real
solid.
tastes in music and stuff. So like if I give him something like the song High Time that I wrote has kind of a soul vibe to it, and he's real good at stuff like that. So he pretty much knows right away what to do with it, which is nice because that doesn't always happen.
So your guys' self-titled album came out in 2019.
Hmm.
Take us through that. Take us through, how it felt launching it, and how it felt with people noticing it too, because I noticed that
Yeah.
that's when I first heard about you, and I was like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. And then or maybe it was 2020, but it was right around the area. And I noticed now a lot of people have been listening to your music. So how take us through it all, the whole record, and how it changed you.
Okay, yeah. I've written quite a few songs from the time that I started my playing career and recorded a few times, a few albums with my other band, but I didn't get the opportunity really to do very much of my original stuff in that band. So I didn't really start kind of like getting into doing my originals and stuff until I started doing my own band. So that the first album was a combination of songs that I had written in the past. Some of those songs were at the time when I recorded them were probably almost 10 years old, and then some of them were brand new. Some ones that I had just written. So that first album was just kind of like me putting the pieces together of things that I had done and new things that I was also coming up with, and just kind of was starting to kind of get into my element with writing and doing originals and stuff like that. So It was
Those are
a
always my favorite albums from people because, like you're saying, some songs on there might be 8, 9 years old,
mhm,
and they got that much work into them. Though you've played them so many times to where it's like I
yeah,
go through songs of mine sometimes, and I'll be like, I was playing it live, and I mixed up and said it this way or whatever, but I actually like it better. Or I'll look at it again after, especially songs when I was younger, and then you get down the road and you reshape something just a little bit, but you'll tweak it, and
mhm,
yeah, people don't understand that like somebody can't come out with an album like that every year.
right,
You can, I
Ye-
guess, sometimes, but that's just luck of the draw. When you get on a roll, you're on a roll. But
yeah,
sometimes, it's a building moment. Everything is in the moment for sure.
yeah. Now, if you listen to a lot of the older bands, like in the '60s and '70s, they would re-record songs all the time. You know,
Yeah,
they would have the same song 3 or 4 times on
and
different albums.
swap off songs. They would play each other's stuff, and I would love.
Mhm.
That's one thing we were talking about the other day. I was talking with I think Ryan Garney. And I was like, we should start like getting people to mingle more, bands to mingle more like they used to. Like, Jimmy would always be playing, showing respect to other bands, and there was like kind of the peace movement and everything, and the Beatles were mingling back and forth, and
Yeah.
um Cream, Eric Clapton, and all those guys. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's what we got to do is like instead of covering old songs, cover new songs to let your audience know about. I mean, we'll get there one day and
Yeah.
everything. Um,
Yeah.
so you got a second album that came out, and that was a bit after Dragonfly, right?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. In
Um,
22.
and you know how did everything change then? Because you guys had been writing then for some time, and now you got
Yeah.
all fresh album. Take me through the process of recording that album.
When I recorded the first one, I kind of like emptied out everything I had. So I had to come up with everything brand new for Dragonfly. I didn't have anything in the past that I could like bring to use on that album. So that one was different because I set out and I wanted to create a whole new original album with all new original songs. So that's what I did. But it took me about a year to make the album. I put quite a bit of work into it. I decided on the first album, we did it where we just went in and knocked it out in like 2 months. We went in, like, we did all 10 rhythm tracks, and then I went in and did all 10 guitar tracks. I went in and did all 10 songs of the vocals. Well, the second time on Dragonfly, I did it like 1 or 2 songs at a time. So I had like 1 or 2 I was working on. We'd go in and cut that, and then I'd
So you
get those.
really got to take more time, it seems like, with that album.
And I think it made a difference.
No,
Um,
I definitely, I think so. You can see a progression in your music, absolutely. Um, you released a live album after that, and that's beautiful because like to go out there and do it live and be able to cut it, there is no going back and editing any mistakes or anything
mm,
like that, and that's impressive. And I think you pulled it off.
yeah,
How do you feel about that live album?
I, I thought it was cool because we had done 2 studio albums that were completely original. But like our live shows, we do covers and originals, and like people love our live shows. So I just thought it would be really cool to do an album that got that across, and kind of let people know like what our live shows are like too, and what
Right,
it's like to do a cover. Because
right.
when we do covers, we don't just like, try to knock it out note for note. We learn the song, but then we play it our own way.
You
So
feel the song.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
we do them as a power trio, so that automatically changes some of them to begin with. Because like, "Give Me Back My Bullets," they probably had 3 guitar players, in that song, but we do it as a trio. So it just gives it a different vibe. A lot of people have told me, we love how you do your originals because we don't just we make them our own. We just play them like we would play them if it was our song.
Right. Yeah, it's just taking some math and being like, this is out of my calculator.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but yeah, man, we're coming up on a quick break, real quick. You're watching the Green Room, everybody. We got Nathan, Bryce, and Loaded Dice here. Thank you.
A glimpse behind the scene The Green Room.
If you're a guitar player and you're looking for a great new acoustic guitar or custom guitar, check out Zager Guitars. They support us here at Soundwave, but not only that, they make excellent guitars. Check out ZagerGuitars.com.
Bladder Rack and Burdock Root. Those aren't very sexy names, but what they do as superfoods is amazing. Then you add that to the superfood, Irish sea moss, and you are talking about glowing skin, weight loss, mental clarity, focus, boosted immune system. All your electrochemical systems just operate in such a smooth way.
Go to the alexjonesstore.com/soundwave and find the best products on the market today. We're talking turmeric, we're talking sea moss gummies, sea moss capsules, everything you need to stay healthy. That again is the alexjonesstore.com/soundwave. Thank you. We would not be doing any of this without our friends at DistroKid. If you are an artist or a new musician trying to get your music out there on all the big platforms like Spotify and iHeartRadio, go check out DistroKid. And while you're at it, use our code and get 20% off. Yes, 20% off your membership fees. Check out DistroKid and support Soundwave. Thank you.
The Green Room, a dive into the minds of the artist.
You're watching The Green Room, everybody, and we're back with Nate. So we were talking about Dragonfly. We were talking about some of your live album. I think we kind of went through. Now you just came out. Didn't you just come out with a new single?
Done 3 singles.
Okay.
We did 6-String Gypsy, and then we did High Time, and then I just recently came out with Soul Connection.
Yeah, Soul Connection. I listened to that one, and that song. It's not. It's smooth. It's smooth.
Yeah. I think that's one of my more commercially appealing songs that I've done. It's just got a really good hook to the chorus and stuff. And when I wrote it, it just, I don't know, just one of those ones that just came together. It just seemed like it all flowed like it was supposed to, you know. Some songs you got to kind of work things out and, you know, stuff like that. But it just seemed like this one, it just kind of like everything just kind of fell into place. Like, oh, that's how it's supposed to go, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's my favorite, is when you write something almost naturally or an improvisation, and then it just almost never changes from that first time you did it. It was just perfect naturally.
Yeah.
So you guys have been doing some touring. I've seen that and I was like, I got to get him on. You guys have been doing the tour with Taj and then some other stuff. So take us into touring, and how do you like being on the road? How do you like traveling? What's some of your favorite places you've played? Take us down through it.
Yeah, that's been great. Like most of my career, I've been a regional artist. So just, you know, I'm from Springfield, Missouri. So we played down like Arkansas, Kansas City, and just kind of around like Missouri and Arkansas mostly. But back in 2022, we met Taj. Kind of just a fluke deal. We play at a place called Meteor Guitar Gallery in Bentonville, Arkansas. And he was coming through when he was 12, the first time he came over from Australia to do a tour of the US. And he was coming through to play that venue. And his agent, I'm guessing, got my name from the owner of the club, called me and asked if we wanted to open. And I was like, cool, yeah, we'd love to. So we ended up opening, met him. But then his backing band that he was using a couple shows later ended up leaving the tour basically. And they called us last minute and asked us if we would back him. So we went to St. Louis the same day, listened to his music on the way up, and backed him that night. And after we backed him, his dad said, well, if he comes back on another tour, you guys will be his band. You know, you'll get the first option, you know, because we really appreciate you stepping up, you know, and all that. So sure enough, I didn't hear nothing from him for 3 months, and then he just called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, we're coming back over. We want you to be the band." So I was like, "Okay, let's do it."
Cool.
But so we went on that tour with them, and we got to go to one of the coolest gigs we got to do so far with them was the Byron Bay Blues Fest in Australia. We got to go over there and play that, and probably had 25,000 people in front of us.
Damn.
So that was pretty cool. We've done some pretty big shows with Buddy Guy that were cool. And then we've played like a lot of iconic venues. Like we played the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco and the House of Blues in New Orleans and House of Blues in Anaheim. You know, there's all kinds of cool venues that we've gotten to play, just like iconic venues where you go in the green room and like, you know, people have signed it. You're like, is that really their signature? Yeah. But it's like, yeah, they really did play there. You know, it's like we're playing at the same places as these guys have played. And it's kind of surreal, you know, almost.
Man, that is really, really some cool stuff.
It's
I've gotten to play a couple places that were legendary, and it's a different feeling when you played somewhere where like people you've looked up to have been. It's almost magical, you know.
been,
Um,
actually been packing all night tonight. We're leaving tomorrow to head to Miami to get on Joe Bonamassa's Keeping the Blues Alive at Sea. And we're doing that all week next week. And then a show in Florida and then coming back. And then we go to Australia again. So
so out of all them shows, I mean, what are some of the favorite moments you've had with the band so far, on the road? And give us two. Give us some favorite moments, and then give us the realism of what it's like to be on the road when, stuff is a little hectic.
yeah, you know, stuff can definitely get hectic, but yeah, it's grueling, you know, being out on the road. It's a lot of work and a lot of driving and, you know, you get tired. But the shows make it worth it, you know. The shows are always great, so I mean that definitely helps, but the more shows the better. But yeah, we definitely had some moments that were great, like the Byron Bay Blues Fest in Australia. I'd say that the biggest moments that I can remember is just getting those loud crowd roars that are just like the ones you see in the movies or something like seems unreal. Like 25,000 people screaming is really cool. You know, like when you end a song, you hit that last note and the crowd
It's
just,
like,
you get the uproar. It's like, wow,
yeah.
that's a different feeling. And we got that at one of the Buddy Guy shows too. We played, there was like 3,000 people in there and, you know, we ended a song and they just went nuts. You know, it's just like,
How does it
that's,
make that next song feel?
those
Does it
moments that
just like make you want to break the strings off your guitar?
yeah,
Like you want to play your heart out after that?
yeah, you
Yeah.
feel, well, you know, you could play anything and it'd be great, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Um,
we had we were playing a show in Cincinnati, and we had this like an older RV that we were using at first. We called it let's see, what did we call it? Well, it was the Bounder, but you know what a Bounder is? Like, you know, one of those big RV motorhomes. Anyway, it was like a 1999 model. And we're trying to get out of Cincinnati and going up this hill, and the transmission went out. It was like in the middle of the night. And it was like probably, I don't know, 30 degrees outside. So we were in the middle of the night with this big bus. Bounder broke down in the middle of the road with transmission fluid going everywhere. Cops are showing up, you know, and we're like several hours in the middle of the night with blankets, like, you know, trying to get the Bounder off the road. So that was probably one of the worst moments.
man, I've been in some of those too, and it feels like everything is trying to stop you from playing this show right now, or from
Yeah.
doing, you know what I mean? You're like, oh man, then you finally get to the show, and it's like, okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And best advice I ever got was from a dude named JoJo, and he's an awesome guitar player here in the area. But um, he was like, man, when you get out there doing what you're doing, just like he said, something's gonna fuck up. And he
Mm-hmm.
said, when it happens, he said, you just look at it and say, there it is. Keep on moving.
Yep. Yep.
He's like, whatever you're doing, don't give up. Just keep
Man,
on moving.
I'll
And
say,
like, I live by that now in a lot of cases. Like, I'm like, there it is. And I mean, I just hear that in my head and keep rolling because that's all
yeah.
you can do, or else like the show fails. And like the old saying, the show must go on or whatever. Go on. You had something to say? Uh,
You know, I could play a million gigs in a hole in the wall bar and never have a problem with my equipment. But then I could get up in front of 25,000 people at some really important gig and I'll have a problem with my equipment. You know, it just never fails.
every time. Every time. It's like this cord that I just bought yesterday. It
Yeah.
was brand new out of the pack. It was the faulty cord out of the factory. Or some crap. Yeah, no, I hear that. And
No,
it's always the pressure's on. And I think it's like a test. It's like a test
it is.
from the musical gods. They're like, well, when I had to do it, I didn't have all this fancy shit. So throw a kink in there. Can you still make it? Can you still swim? And we always, I mean, I've had to go one last foot pedal one time and a couple other things, but you always push through, you know what I mean?
Or you
Um,
have issues, you can't hear your vocal or, you know, something. So it's
what's some of your favorite gear to play? You're a wicked guitar player. I want to hear some guitar stuff.
my
Yeah, just talk about it.
my favorite piece of equipment that I have is my Marshall stack. But I have a
Well, elaborate on that. What kind of stack we looking at? We got tubes in there. We got solid state. Um, what you
yeah,
got?
it's a Marshall 1987X, so it's a 50-watt plexi. So it's the half version of Hendrix's amp. The Marshalls, you know, that he used.
Yes, sir.
Um, it's like probably an early 90s model, reissue. But then I've got the full stack. So I've got the 1960B bottom cab, and then I've got the 1968 top slant cab. And I real cloth them myself. So they've got like a vintage looking brown grill cloth on them. And then I put greenback speakers in them. So, but that's just like always like the rig that I always wanted like my whole life. And I recently got it within the last like couple of years, but it's my prized possession. It's kind of like my trophy, you know, it's like, that's my trophy for playing music right there. That big old Marshall stack. But that and my Strat's my favorite guitar, my black Strat.
Now, have
It's
you done anything to it, or is it just factory?
completely stock. It's an American Vintage '59 reissue Fender. Um, no, it's got the thin nitro finish on it, so it wears, you know, like the old Strats did and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the poly mutes the body. It's like putting little pieces of duct tape on a drum set or something and muting your drums. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. I sometimes I'll find a guitar that I like the shape of or something like that, and then I'll rip all that stuff off and rebuild it and just have fun and do projects with my little one. But
You know, I've built Strats myself, like where I bought all the parts and put the guitar together myself. I've swapped pickups out of Strats and done all kinds of stuff, but I really think that there's something about the construction of the guitar and the wood of the guitar that makes more difference than any electronic you could put in it. Because something about that black one, you know, it's just got the original 59 pickups in it. But if I took those pickups and put them in a different Strat, it wouldn't sound the same. You
right,
know?
right. I
So it's the
mean,
guitar. I mean, I
and
think the guitar
it's
has more to
you
do
get
with.
into moisture density and all that stuff. I when I bought my Les Paul, I took all this time. I was like, do I really want a Les Paul? And like all this stuff, and then watched how they go through their factory and like how they'll chunk something that's like 0.02 off of the moisture density that they're looking for that body. They're like, all right, we'll make that a cheaper guitar. That's not going to be this guitar. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, all this stuff really matters. And you
Mm-hmm.
don't know until you start really like studioing out how you were talking about cutting like 10 guitar tracks and you hear the cut of your amp and the
Mm-hmm.
cut of your guitar. And that's when I heard you, I was like, oh man, he's a player. And you play some licks. I seen you on I think it was Facebook or one of the social media sites, and it was just a short clip of you just wailing on something, and I was like, oh man, we're about to interview him. Yeah, dude, you've been kicking it. So, we've talked about shows and we've talked about all that. Do you guys got merchandise that you've been working with or anything coming up?
Yeah, we got the albums. I got Dragonfly on vinyl available, and then I've got the other albums on CD. But I've also got T-shirts, stickers, pics.
Awesome. Where
That
can people find all that stuff?
our website, nathanbryceband.com. Yeah, on the store page, and then of course everything's on our website. You can get our show schedule and links to our music, and you can download our songs for free on there even. But we prefer that you go to like a platform and stream it. But
How has music stayed true to you, and how do you plan on like expanding music? So like, what has music done for you, and what do you want to do for music?
man, I kind of want to just like get things back to being raw again.
Yeah.
I just love old music, and I don't get the same pleasure. And it's kind of funny saying that because I'm making new music, but like when I listen to new artists, I just don't get the same feeling as I do listening to the old stuff. And and there's new stuff that I like. There's a lot of new stuff that I think is great, but I always end up going back to listening to the old stuff again. I don't know. Um, but I try to take just my old influences from those, from the old days, and I just try to put my own spin on it. Basically, I just from like the mid '60s to the mid '70s is my favorite era of music. From like '65 to '75, or even '67 to '73 to be more specific, is like when the greatest music of all time was created, in my opinion. But like growing up in the '90s, I had a lot of influence there, and then blues, I had a ton of influence because of Stevie Ray Vaughan. And I just wanted to play like him, so I started looking up what he was into, and then like Eric Clapton was hugely influenced by blues.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I went down that path of just going back and checking out all the blues dudes that influenced the people that I like. You
mhm.
know what I mean? Because how
Yeah,
did they get to where they're at? I need to know the path, you know?
exactly.
But
Yeah,
we're coming up on a hard break, bro, and we'll be right back. We got Nathan Bryce from Nathan Bryce and Loaded Dice on. You're watching The Green Room. We'll be right back. Thank you for watching.
A glimpse behind the scenes. The Green Room.
Bladder rack and burdock root. Those aren't very sexy names, but what they do as superfoods is amazing. Then you add that to the superfood, Irish sea moss, and you are talking about glowing skin, weight loss, mental clarity, focus, boosted immune system. All your electrochemical systems just operate in such a smooth way.
Go to the alexjonesstore.com/soundwave and find the best products on the market today. We're talking turmeric, we're talking sea moss gummies, sea moss capsules, everything you need to stay healthy. That again is the alexjonesstore.com/soundwave. Thank you. We would not be doing any of this without our friends at DistroKid. If you are an artist or a new musician trying to get your music out there on all the big platforms like Spotify and iHeartRadio, go check out DistroKid. And while you're at it, use our code and get 20% off. Yes, 20% off your membership fees. Check out DistroKid and support Soundwave. Thank you. If you're a guitar player and you're looking for a great new acoustic guitar or custom guitar, check out Zager Guitars. They support us here at Soundwave, but not only that, they make excellent guitars. Check out ZagerGuitars.com.
A glimpse behind the scene. The Green Room.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Green Room. We got Nathan here with Nathan, Bryce, and Loaded Dice, and we were talking about all kinds of stuff. We were talking about live albums. We were talking about just so much stuff, and I want to stick right there on that live album and kind of talk about, what's some of your favorite songs that you had done live. You talked about some of the cover songs on that album, but talk about some of your live songs. What's the favorite live one that you got on there?
One of the favorite ones that we do live is one of our originals on there called JJ Hector. It's kind of a more rockin' tune. It's in drop D. Not that everyone knows what that is, but
more of like a heavier, darker tuning.
Yeah,
for those that don't know.
Songs in drop D, they automatically know it's
yeah.
But yeah, that one's a fun one to play. And the lyrics are kind of meaningful to me and stuff. And I like playing that song. It's got a spot at the end where it kind of transitions into a faster, more upbeat riff at the end. And I just get to like solo for as long as I want. So I always like those kind of songs,
Do you guys have any songs that you go a little outside the boundaries on, a little improvisation on?
Yeah.
Would that be one of them? Where you just kind of can like make it as long as you want and go wherever you want on guitar. Now, yeah. Do you guys do that a lot, or is it planned? This is what I wonder. Is it planned to do that, or is it just that's where we're naturally going and we're on a train riding somewhere?
Yeah, sometimes it is, and sometimes it depends on the gig too. Like if we've only got an hour set, we got to kind of limit that a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're playing a 3-hour gig at a venue somewhere, we'll get into some jams and just let it go. But yeah, usually it's not planned. I mean, there's some songs that we know we're going to do it on, more than others, but
right. And them 3-hour shows are where you can really, figure out what works and what doesn't, and then you kind of clean it up and take it into them 1-hour sets and just give them the best of that. But I do feel you that I always feel that when you're watching a band, or especially like you love the classics, and I've been out to see ZZ and a bunch of them, and I always am like, man, it's an incredible show. It's amazing, but it's like I couldn't imagine what it would have been like to be back at one of your 3-hour shows that you were just like, we'll play this one for how we feel it, or what, you know what I mean?
We just put some videos up. I just put some up on our Facebook that a fan took of us playing at a bar here in Springfield, and it's just one of those places. It's our hometown bar that we play at. We're super comfortable there. We play for a long time. So we just kind of like get in our element and we just play, and that's when I like it the best, because there's no pressure, we're just enjoying it for the music. We're enjoying jamming with each other. And that's when the best stuff comes out, in my opinion. And that's what, we love doing. I don't like it when stuff's too structured. I hate following a set list.
We've talked, if you could say like, this song changed my life, if it's one of yours, if it's a classic, but put your, for the fans, talk about some music that's like changed your life, or that really made an impact on you.
Definitely Stevie Ray Vaughan. Probably made the biggest impact on me of anyone.
But what song? What's like one that like got you through something?
I would say one that kind of stands out is like Texas Flood, which is one of his early ones, off his first album. And it's just blues, but like, when he plays the blues, it's just so raw, and the emotion is just so pure. And I can just really feel that in his playing. Um, and I don't know, I think his playing just grabbed me. I really related to his approach
It's
to
funny you
music.
talk about that too, because BB King, um, he was actually from right around he or stayed right around the area I stay in. But he uh he found Stevie, or when he met Stevie, he said he was walking into a club and he was like standing there and he's walking in and he's like, I got goosebumps
Hmm.
up my arms. I felt like I heard a ghost, he said. And he's like, I walked up in there and it was Stevie Ray. He thought it was Jimi Hendrix, the
Yeah,
way he plays. And yeah, there's the only it's like a and I was telling you, I think we may have been during a break or something, but I was talking about Ryan Scott and you got these guys, and you can't really say that rock music isn't happening and progressing right now because you guys are all doing it. There's
yeah,
just like I said in a past interview, a weight on the scale or whatever. But you look at it and you like it's still happening and people hear it, but then like it hits a wall, and that's what we're here to do too, is break down that wall and just drive right into the heart of the pop culture and take it right back and
yeah.
make it rock and roll again. But
A
I
lot of
mean,
stuff happening, but it's still just kind of underground. It's like,
yeah, which
but
makes it more room for improvement in a lot of ways because we can go off the walls and you ain't got all these sponsors to lose and all that stuff, but
hmm,
also we can build our own thing. We don't have to do with all their bullshit.
yeah,
That's the solve to our problem. We got to stop trying to play pop culture games and
yeah,
build our own empire right back, our own labels. I mean, a lot of people are starting to do it too, or have started. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and drop a bunch of names, but everybody knows somebody who's trying to make something happen, and who has a good taste in music. And if you just listen into them band, like, Black Keys or Jack
hmm,
White does a lot in Nashville. And so, yes, those guys do that, but we got to kind of be like, okay, so they've started taking the first steps. Now it's for all of us to kind of, you know, keep building and expand. But communication is everything. We got to
yeah,
get bands talking to each other. We got to
mm,
get bands ready to go on tour with each other, and
yeah,
then basically just do it for peace. Do it all for peace because like that's the real goal. I mean, you're playing your heart out so everybody hears it, so it brings them peace, so you can do them some good in their life.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So while you're with like a classic vibe and everything, and the classic sound, how do you look at progressing it, and what do you want to do?
I just want to keep writing. I mean, that's the biggest goal for me, is to just keep putting out my own original songs. And I just kind of write, what comes to me and what I feel. But I really like getting into the studio and getting creative in the studio with it. I have a lot of fun with that. I work with a guy that we recorded both of our albums with, and his name's Greg Roller, and he has his own studio and it's in his house. But man, he does a really good job, and especially on the Dragonfly album and some of the newer stuff we've done. I think the sound is pretty high quality for just a guy that's doing it in his house. But we have really good chemistry with each other, and he's really easy to work with in the studio, and he's the type of person that's just totally cool, like trying anything.
Yeah, he'll
Which
give you a couple more takes than other guys
worked with
trying
some
to just get every penny out of the minute.
I've worked with some before that are just kind of like, when you ask them to do something, they almost, it's kind of like a hassle to him almost. And but he's like, just whatever you want, whatever you want to try, let's do it. So that's
So
pretty cool.
do you have any new like guitar effects or licks or can you tease anything new music wise or new releases on the horizon? And then let's dive into talking about, your live shows coming up and the next performances you got scheduled and stuff.
Yeah. Well, we put out the three singles, and we just put out Soul Connection. That's only been out like 2 months, I think. But then I'm in the process of writing some more stuff. I kind of want to, at this point, just write about 4 or 5 more songs and then just put another album out like the early part of next year is kind of like what I'm hoping, because I want to put those 3 singles on an album. And, those might even get like a remix. There's some things I want to do with those that I could already hear that I could change. And then, maybe like a song or two off the first album even that I would like to redo. But then I've got new material also that I'm working on. So I'm just kind of like always working towards like the next thing. But another studio album is the next thing on my list for sure. But, and I love guitar effects. So I have, but most of the effects that I use are like the classic ones. I've got like the Hendrix vibe, roto vibe, and then I've got a Leslie pedal, which is probably one of my favorite pedals. It's sounds just like a B3, just like a Leslie speaker. I used to have a real Leslie that I hauled around with me everywhere, but that got kind of old. So Hammond came out with a pedal that actually simulates a Leslie, and it'll speed up and slow down and stuff just like a Leslie. I use it a ton when I play rhythm with Taj, because we're just a 3-piece with him basically. So I'll hit these big chords and it just sounds like an organ, in the back.
Oh, I might have to give me one of those.
Always comment on that a lot, but that's one of my favorite pedals to use. I have a whammy pedal, which is the one that Tom Morello used a lot in Rage Against the Machine. So I'll use that a lot, and it just kind of throws a weird effect in there, but yeah, I definitely like playing with guitar sounds and like trying to get as weird as I can get with my guitar sounds, like getting all the weird feedback and stuff like that. I love doing.
Yeah, you get down with the guitar playing, man. So, how do you how surprised were you when you got to go to Australia and stuff? So like when you went over there, how weird is it? Is it a culture shock to go over there and play with somebody that he's I haven't got to listen to much of his music,
Mm-hmm.
but he's phenomenal player.
Yeah,
And just how is it to play with Tosh?
it's cool because, like, for one, I'm supporting a young artist that is playing music that I love, and I love to see that. I love to see kids and young artists coming up that are, keeping the music alive, basically. But being that I started playing and was doing this kind of like when he was, I identify a lot with it, and if I was going to be backing someone and supporting someone, it's pretty cool to be supporting someone like that.
You get overseas and they love rock and roll.
Mhm.
They love it here too, don't get me wrong, but you got to like find your spots and avenues and stuff. It's not that it's not there, it's like,
You got to find it.
you got a bunch of people that just want to go get drunk and listen to dance music too a lot. So
Yeah.
we're still kind of battling disco, I guess. But
Yeah.
outside of this country, I mean, they are just dying to hear good rock and roll, it feels like.
Yeah, Europe's in the talks for us to go over there. Like, Europe's just like begging for him to go over there.
I don't know. There's just no way. I've learned. I was like, I want to light the fire of rock and roll back. Start
Yeah.
Soundwave. Help
Yeah.
this mission. Join this and do it. And then I learned, like, light the fire back. It's already burning, son. Like, you just got to get to talking about it. But yeah, man. So take us back through the merch. Where can people find merch? And then where can people stream your music? Obviously, Spotify and everything.
Okay. Yeah, we're on all the major platforms. So, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, don't matter. Whatever you listen to your music on, we're on there, I'm sure. So, but we're also on YouTube. We got tons of videos on YouTube. But our website is the easiest place to find everything, nathanbryceband.com. And it's got all of our music, our links, our videos, our merch, our show dates. You can get everything in one spot if you just go to the website. But you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram and, all that good stuff too. Or just Google Nathan Bryce and I come up everywhere.
All right, everybody. Man, it's been great having you on, Nathan. We definitely want to have you back. Everybody, thank you so much for watching The Green Room. Don't forget to check out his music everywhere. Support rock music. That's what we're doing here. Thank you for watching. We're out of here.
The Green Room, a dive into the minds of the artist.
Bladder rack and burdock root. Those aren't very sexy names, but what they do as superfoods is amazing. Then you add that to the superfood, Irish sea moss, and you are talking about glowing skin, weight loss, mental clarity, focus, boosted immune system. All your electrochemical systems just operate in such a smooth way.
Go to the alexjonesstore.com/soundwave and find the best products on the market today. We're talking turmeric, we're talking sea moss gummies, sea moss capsules, everything you need to stay healthy. That again is the alexjonesstore.com/soundwave. Thank you. We would not be doing any of this without our friends at DistroKid. If you are an artist or a new musician trying to get your music out there on all the big platforms like Spotify and iHeartRadio, go check out DistroKid. And while you're at it, use our code and get 20% off. Yes, 20% off your membership fees. Check out DistroKid and support Soundwave. Thank you. If you're a guitar player and you're looking for a great new acoustic guitar or custom guitar, check out Zager Guitars. They support us here at Soundwave, but not only that, they make excellent guitars. Check out ZagerGuitars.com.